the desert of Asmara, where dust dances and hills refuse to hide. In the country of Eritrea, where people fought for their culture and reclaimed their independence as their own. My family and I are from. My earliest memory is one I hold because it is a remembrance of moving away but not letting go. The whistling of the train wakes me from a deep slumber. I stare at the open land ahead of me, surrounded in dust, rocks, and dry plants. As we travel, our train races time and the sun dips below the horizon, casting hues of warm oranges and spontaneous shades of pink across the sky. My family and I are traveling from Eritrea, a land of dust and rocks, hoping to find warm orange skies. This becomes the earliest memory I can recall. The train rumbles onward, carrying us away from the familiar sights and sounds of Eritrea. The landscape outside shifts gradually from the rugged terrain of Asmara to the vast open expanse of the desert. Yet despite the uncertainty of our destination, I find solace in the presence of my family beside me. I am sat by my mother, and I can feel my head on her shoulders and her warmth radiating off of her, and in this moment, though I cannot recall the clothes we wear, the look on our faces, or our faces at all, really, I feel safe. This journey, a journey of my earliest memory I can recall, is a sort of physical representation of my learning of English. An internal struggle I felt between holding on to my cultural roots and embracing new opportunities. But it was the kindness of my elementary school teachers that acted as a beacon of light in the midst of uncertainty, in the midst of learning English. And just as the train propelled us forward, so too did moments of kindness propel me forward on my journey of learning a language and self-discovery. I can distinctly remember when the shift happened in my learning of English, much like the moment when the train's whistle stirred me from my slumber. I was the first in my family to speak English fluently, and I can remember being 10 years old, sat in the corner of the room, flipping through pages of an assignment that my teacher had returned to me. And I was filled with shriveling doubt. And this doubt must have been radiating off of me because she walked over, knelt down next to me, and spoke in a soft, gentle voice that only I could hear. As she began to speak, I listened intently, not knowing that what she said next I would carry for years to come. "You're a great writer, Luluya," she assured me. Her gentle reassurance echoed in my mind like the rhythmic clatter of the train on its tracks. While this small phrase may not seem life-changing to some, the doubt that I was sitting in began to dissipate. Her words served as a reminder, affirming the value of my bilingual identity. As a bilingual student, I struggled to feel confident in both of the languages that were crucial parts of my identity. At 10 years old, I felt as if my native language, Tigrina, was slipping like sand through my fingers, like I was struggling to keep grasp of my native tongue. And I felt disconnected from my language when I couldn't hold full and meaningful conversations with my parents. But on the other hand, I felt like I was falling behind my classmates in English class. Feeling the disappointment and disconnection from both languages caused doubt to grow within me. And against my nature, I fell silent. So what seemed like simple words actually reassured both of the identities I was juggling, and I was determined to prove her right. And so as I journeyed through high school, my love for writing grew deeper, intertwining with experiences and reflections that I had, and I found myself drawn to writing in a way that echoed my own story. With each word I penned, I felt a sense of liberation, as if I were reclaiming pieces of myself that were lost, as if I were reclaiming pieces of my voice that were left trembling. I no longer find myself becoming the confused 10-year-old girl who was fighting to merge two worlds when picking up a pen or starting a sentence. And there are days when I'm told I'm too loud, when I'm told to feel, be, or act small, and when this happens, I can feel the shriveling doubt begin to creep back in. But then I remember warmth, and I remember kindness and what it did for me, and so I exhale, and I begin to speak, hoping that the words I say inspire others. Amidst the growth and self-discovery that I thought I had discovered, there were still moments of doubt and insecurity, much like the fear I felt as a young girl having her hair braided. The sacred ritual of braiding, passed down through generations of women in my culture, was symbolized the love, connection, and womanhood in my culture. And my mom used to braid my hair every day for elementary school. It would be under dimly lit lights that I would sit in between her thighs as she weaved her fingers through my afro. And it was a time for us to connect and understand each other. And when women in my culture braid each other's hair, it's a form of sisterhood and connection to womanhood. But as I grew older, the once comforting act became tinged with pain and reluctance. To be honest, the way that I'm describing the process now is much different to how 10-year-old or even 13-year-old Luluya would actually felt to getting her hair braided. I considered myself to have a sensitive scalp, and so when I look back now, I remember the conversations, the end result of getting my hair braided, the nostalgic feeling of it all. But if younger Luluya was the one to speak now, she would describe it a little differently. I used to be so scared of getting my hair braided because it used to hurt so much. I could feel my mom's nails like digging into my skin, and like it would hurt so much. But my mom didn't understand that, because whenever she braided my sister's hair, it just didn't hurt her that much. So she at one point didn't believe me. But I would tell her to cut her nails when braiding her hair, and so she did. But it would still hurt. And she tried to be as gentle as she could, but the pain just wouldn't go. And looking back on these memories now, I'm so grateful that my mother would spend hours to make my hair look good for school when she'd just gotten back from a night shift and was probably exhausted from work. The time to ask my parents about their childhood back in Eritrea never came up so seamlessly as it did when I was trying to ignore the pain I was feeling on my scalp. And those topics were such great distractions. I could see them as children again, and I could see what their life back in Eritrea and in their hometown looked like, and I could imagine them. And it made their journey to and through America that much more remarkable to me. Braiding my hair was a weaving, a process, an exploration, an adventure, a remembrance, and a space of connection. So you could imagine what happened when I refused to let my mother braid my hair for a couple of years during my time in middle school. Middle school, with its pressures to conform and fit in, marked the unraveling of many aspects of my identity, including the connection to my cultural heritage, which was symbolized by braiding. In those tumultuous years, I pushed away the traditions that once bound me to my family and culture, seeking instead to assimilate with the majority. No one wanted to be unique in middle school, and I don't blame them. I mean, have you ever met middle schoolers? They're mean, and not the sneaky kind. They're loud about it, and they quite frankly don't care about your feelings. I would know. I have a younger brother who's in middle school. Yeah. But we all grow out of phase, or so I hope. I really hope he grows out of the phase. But everyone was much more concerned with finding who the majority was and instead becoming a part of that. I, sadly, wasn't exempt from this either. Braiding hair, or at least the way my family did, wasn't that popular. And so it started happening, an unraveling of connection. Braids once weaved so tightly together, unraveled. It started with hair and then moved to meals, and soon an unraveling of my identity as a whole seemed to happen. As a result of this, many of my mornings before school consisted of struggle. Struggling to pick an outfit, struggling to put my hair up, but also an internal struggle of, am I choosing to be black or am I choosing to be a teenager today? Did I want to let my hair breathe and let it loose, or did I want to sit comfortably in the front of the class? Comfortable as in not worrying about blocking the view of the person behind me because my hair was too big. Did I want to be fully black and proud, or did I want to experience normal teenager things? The little girl inside me wanted to be expressive in all the ways she could, and the teenager in me wanted to experience all the things that the high school girls in the movies did. And so it was too contrasting, and it just didn't fit, and so I was forced to choose one, or I felt like I was. And so I did. I did choose. I chose to put my hair up in buns all the time, I chose to stop eating homemade meals consistently, and I chose to start speaking more English at home. I truly do now believe that was an important part of my journey to understanding and accepting myself fully and deeply, I had to be a teenager. I had to go through that distance and disconnection from truly accepting all of my identities in order to learn that I'm multifaceted. I'm made up of my identity as an Eritrean, as a Black person, as a daughter, as a woman, as a friend, as a daughter, and so much more. Even if I am the only person who fits those identities in a room, that disconnection taught me to understand, to not cower away or try to hide even one of those identities. As a Black person, you can tell when you're the only Black person in the room. It's not something that's said necessarily, it's just something that's in the back of your mind. So when the time came that I decided to join softball, I had to keep that idea of not cowering away in mind. The decision to join the softball team represents a turning point in embracing facets of my identity. Despite being one of only 2 Black girls on the team, I had a determination to show up, to engage with the unfamiliar, and to challenge stereotypes and expectations. And the thing with confronting stereotypes is that most of the time you're not only confronting society's stereotypes. A lot of the times you're also confronting your own. And if there's one thing that disconnection through middle school made me realize is I got to root for all my identities to be able to mix and work together to become me before I can expect or ask anyone else to. And so the scorching heat roasted through the orange helmet and reached my head. The sun blinded me in heat waves. My feet dug into the already paved dirt way, but the balls of my feet still rotated left and right, digging myself more comfortably in. My eyes left my feet and studied the player in front of me. "Build that house," I managed to hear my coach say from the sidelines, and immediately my elbows went up and inner. The figure in front of me started their motion, their hands went up and around, and just as I had registered the movement, the small yellow ball was already hurling in my direction. The weight of the bat shifted through the air, shifted from my right shoulder and through the air in front of me. I had missed it. The sound of the blazing ball sped past me and instead made contact with the catcher's glove behind me. I'm just glad that I didn't start spinning with my bat, yeah, that would have been bad. But my long dark afro hair suffocated my face and collected heat from the blazing hot summer air. My palm stung as I had earlier made the mistake of catching the hard softball with my open hand rather than with my closed gloved hand. I know, yeah. And as I was walking home that day from my very first softball practice, I scanned my right palm as it was growing red marks. Still, I returned to practice the next Thursday morning. I continued to show up for the off-season softball practices that summer. I had not planned on joining softball that summer, but I saw the upcoming post about practices and thought, why not? So I convinced myself to at least show up to one practice and then decide if I desired to continue the sport or not. Spoiler alert, not only did I play for my junior season, I came back for my senior season and played that as well. Softball in of itself was a journey for me. I had to wear a helmet for safety reasons or whatever. But do you see my hair? This was not fitting in that small helmet. I don't know where all that this was not fitting in there. But, so I had to find a way to manage my hair and put that in there. Either I had to put it in twist or in a slick back bun or braided or whatever. But I didn't allow that or my feeling of not fitting in originally to stop me from learning how to both be authentically myself and a part of a team at the same time. That's difficult, but unlike middle school Luluya, I was willing to try. So basically, since the point here is to have a bigger idea, here's what I've learned. Self-exploration for me is a lot like braiding hair. It's starting in this afro form and then going through this long, tedious process to be braided, only to be unbraided and start the whole process again. It's never ending. It's a weaving and unraveling and a process. I believe that life is a continuous learning of who we are. And in order for that to be rich in experience, we have to be compassionate with ourselves when learning to accept who we are. To understand there will be times when you're disconnected from you, but it will only make the connected part that much more worthy. I weave together the diverse threads of my identity into a tapestry of strength and resilience. And like my name suggests, I am resilient enough to continue learning that. Luluya Tekle means pearl in sea, and like a pearl in the sea, which can be calm or roaring, I will continue to ride the waves in search of home within myself.